Revealed, the incredible journey of a monk who captivated 300 women without ever bathing. Once in Maplewood, a small town cradled by emerald fields, there lived a man named Jacob whose choices defied convention. He was 32, but his wisdom stretched far beyond his years. In a world where cleanliness and conformity reigned, Jacob, the gentle hermit, preferred the embrace of dirt and solitude. Despite the curious whispers behind closed doors, swirls of admiration followed him like a shadow. 300 women, each drawn to his authenticity, found themselves captivated by the light he radiated, a stark contrast to the gloom of material excess. Every day, Jacob tended to the local farm, his hands calloused but his heart soft. The golden fields danced under his care, and so did the spirits of those who crossed his path. "Thank you, Jacob," a neighbor would call, amazed at the way he toiled from dawn till dusk, never once asking for a thing in return. Both young and old respected him, but the elders held skepticism like a shield. Baffled by his choice of life, the younger townsfolk, craving connection and authenticity, sang Jacob's praises. They rallied around him, seeing in his unorthodox ways a glimmer of hope against the backdrop of a world losing its sincerity. Conversations buzzed with excitement, stoking the fires of change. But with change came conflict, and soon enough, the town was split down the middle. "Something must be done," yelled one elder at a meeting, veins bulging as the debate rose. Amid the chaos, Jacob remained a beacon, his calm demeanor unshaken. He listened, smiled, and spoke in a voice like a whispering stream: love should know no boundaries. The crowd hushed, contemplating his truth, longing for a world where judgment bowed to understanding. But then, nature unfolded chaos in the form of a disastrous storm. Rain battered rooftops and howled through the streets, uprooting trees and dreams. Jacob, fueled by a desire to aid, leapt into action. He helped rescue stranded neighbors and cleared debris, but the storm left mud caked on his skin. As tensions unfurled, accusations arose: his lifestyle, it's a risk. What if the filth spread sickness? His dedication turned suspicion seething. Betrayed, Jacob could feel the weight of a mountain as relationships eroded and cries of discontent filled the air. Friends quarreled, and families were tested under the strain of divisive thoughts. As the town prepared for a crucial meeting, whispers filled the air thick as fog, uncertainty wrapping its arms around them all. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. The town meeting grew hot, the atmosphere electric with pent-up frustrations and desire for resolution. As eyes darted towards Jacob, a silence erupted. He had become the symbol for something greater than himself, a paradox of love and fear wrapped in flannel and grit. And just as cracks threatened to flush out both sides, an unexpected visitor, with a secret tethered to Jacob's past, entered the room. The room went silent, the truth hung heavy in the air. Would Jacob defend himself from accusations that cut deep, or would he choose to reveal the hidden threads tying him irrevocably to Maplewood? As he stood there, the question loomed: can a man who never bathes embody the essence of love, justice, and community? The unexpected visitor stepped forward, a slender figure shrouded in an air of mystery. Nanette, a woman from Jacob's past, her wide eyes brimming with memories, scanned the room as whispers cascaded through the crowd. She bore a connection to Jacob, one that painted unanswered questions across the faces of those gathered. "For too long, you have been quick to judge," she said, her voice steady yet strained. "Let me tell you who Jacob truly is." Everyone leaned in, heartbeats quickening with anticipation. Nanette, once a childhood friend of Jacob, carried memories that could bridge the divide threatening to tear Maplewood apart. Many years ago, before he chose this life, Jacob faced pain that few can endure. She began, her voice echoing warmth layered with sorrow. He was not born to live alone, to abandon cleanliness. But love twisted his path. The words flowed like water, as truths that had been long buried threatened to resurface. The town watched her closely, eyes wide, brows furrowed. Jacob's heart raced, pounding in his chest like a drum calling for justice. He wasn't ashamed of who he had become, but the specter of his past hung heavy between them. Silent, he found solace in the unexpected alliance of his old friend. 2 years ago, the love of his life, Margaret, fell ill. Nanette pressed on. She battled illness as he held her hand, never leaving her side. He bathed in despair but refused to bathe himself out of grief. Eyes softened around the room, a flicker of understanding sparking like flame in the dark. I was there when he lost her, Nanette continued, her voice trembling. He chose to honor her memory by embracing the world around him instead of succumbing to cleanliness that felt foreign. He believed that love itself could shine through even the murkiest of souls. A murmur of hushed voices rustled around the room, as glimmers of empathy painted the once hardened hearts of the elders. Would they see the depth of Jacob's choices? Would the sighs of judgment transform into compassionate understanding? Jacob felt a swell of gratitude towards Nanette. Yet, as the whispers morphed from confusion into a chorus of support, a sharp voice pierced through the room. "That's no excuse for bringing filth into our lives," shouted an elder, his words draped in anger. Eyes turned, the night air thickening. Jacob stepped forward, heart racing, vulnerability washing over him. "I am no different than anyone here. I chose love, but I never chose to hurt you. In a world full of judgments, we must remember kindness. How can we ever hope to understand unless we share our truths?" Just as the tension reached a boiling point, the sound of thunder rumbled outside, mimicking the storms of emotion swirling within. Jacob's words hung precariously in the air like the looming clouds overhead. As he stood there, poised between past and present, a choice nestled in the depths of his heart. Would he keep fighting for acceptance, or would he retreat into the isolated life he once knew? The crowd waited, a mixture of hope and fear swirling like the winds outside. The door creaked as a flash of light illuminated the room, casting long shadows of doubt along the walls. What would Jacob decide? The question lingered palpably in the air, and every breath caught in collective anticipation. Would this storm bring clarity, or would it drown their hopes alongside the rain? The crowd remained entranced, their breaths suspended as Jacob felt the weight of their gazes. He glanced at Nanette, who nodded, a silent encouragement that sent a surge of courage through him. "Listen," he began, his voice a low murmur that rose with determination. "I didn't choose this path lightly. When I lost Maggie, it shattered me. It's easy to judge without knowing the story behind the dirt, behind the disheveled exterior. But I chose to live close to her memory, to embrace each faded moment, even if it left me unkempt." The murmur of the crowd shifted. They leaned closer, intrigued, drawn into Jacob's vulnerability. The thunder outside seemed to echo his ruminations, a fierce symphony backing the unraveling of his heart. "But what's more important," he pressed on, gripping the edge of the rickety podium, "is that through the pain, I've learned something profound. It's about coming together. About understanding. About acceptance. Maybe I am dirty in their eyes, but I've seen the purity of love in the darkest places." His voice quivered, and he caught glimpses of softening faces. The elder who had shouted his mouth now closed tight, a crease of disbelief showed on his brow. Perhaps he hadn't expected the honesty, the rawness. Nanette added, stepping beside him. "We all have our battles. Jacob's journey might seem strange, but it's a reflection of the love we share. He showed me how we can carry those we've lost with us." As she spoke, a gentle wind swept through the room, shaking the fragile papers on the table. It felt like the universe itself was urging the town to listen, to really absorb the murmurings of the past. Would they lean into the discomfort, the challenge ahead, or would they cling to the safety of prejudice? Jacob glanced over the crowd, taking in hopeful but cautious expressions. "You all know pain. We all do. The wounds we carry are often hidden behind closed doors. I can't change how you see me overnight, but I hope. I hope we can start a conversation. One where love is at the center. Nods emerged from unexpected places. An elder woman wiped a tear from her eye, while others shifted closer, leaning into the moment, a subtle transformation beginning. A small ripple of hope filtered through the atmosphere like sunlight breaking through the storm clouds. Just then, the thunder that had been simmering crescendoed, drowning out any remaining fear. Lightning illuminated the room, just as Nanette spoke softly. Love doesn't always come clean. But it's in the mess that we find each other. The crowd buzzed with life, thoughts igniting as they began to exchange glances, whispering amongst themselves. Conversation sparked, thoughts danced in the air, and for the first time, the weight of Jacob's past seemed lighter, but as joy began to bloom within this fragile acceptance, the door creaked open wider, revealing another visitor standing in the doorway, drenched from the storm outside. Eyes widened, curiosity rippling anew through the crowd. Who could it be? Their presence seemed to promise further reveals, stirring a mystery that wasn't yet over. Jacob's heart paused, caught between the remnants of the past and the unexpected newcomer. What did this new arrival signify for his journey? Would this be the catalyst that dug deeper into secrets? Hope and trepidation wove together, about to pivot the narrative once more. The figure in the doorway seemed both familiar and foreign, an apparition wrapped in the shadows cast by thunder and light. Rain dripped theatrically from their hair, pooling at their feet, a tangled mess of soaked fabric that added to the overall mystery. Jacob squinted, trying to make out the newcomer's face, but all he could see were dark, stormy eyes that sparkled with recognition that it was Emily. The last person he expected to see, but somehow, the most important. She stepped forward, shaking droplets off like a shedding dog, her lip trembling. The crowd's focus shifted, whispers floating through the air as each person's gaze darted between Jacob and this unexpected arrival. Emily, Jacob breathed, his heart racing. What are you doing here? I came looking for you, she said, her voice strong despite the tremor beneath it. I heard about your speech. I had to see it for myself. Tears glistened in her eyes, and in that moment, the storm outside faded away, leaving only the raw current between them. The crowd, still cocooned in curiosity, quietly observed this emotional reunion. Jacob felt the connection brew again, like warm soup on a winter's day. You shouldn't have come out in this weather, he said, stepping closer, nearly forgetting the audience that had gathered. I needed to, she replied softly. We need to talk. There is something you deserve to know, something that could change everything. His heart dropped, alarm bells ringing inside. What do you mean? Before she could answer, a cacophony of energy surged through the crowd. Questions, curiosity, intrigue bubbled to the surface, snapping Jacob back into the present. All eyes were on them now, no longer just observers of his vulnerability but eager participants in a broader, unfolding narrative. Jacob, remember how you said we all have our battles? Emily continued, glancing at the crowd. Well, I have one too. And I think we can face it together. A hush fell over the room. Electric anticipation hung in the air, mingling with the storm swirling outside. Jacob's throat tightened, emotions welling up within him, a cocktail of excitement and dread. What are you saying, Emily? He asked, almost afraid to hear her response. I found something. She hesitated, biting her lip. It's about your past, about Maggie and the choices made after she left us. Her chest rose and fell quickly, as if she were fighting the weight of her words. Visibly shaken, Jacob's mind raced. This wasn't just about him anymore. There were shadows stretching into their shared history, threads pulling at the very fabric of his heart, pieces he thought he had reconciled. I don't want to relive it, he said, desperation now creeping in. Not when I finally feel like I'm moving forward. But what if this is the key to unlocking that forward momentum? Emily implored, gripping his arm tightly. The murmuring crowd seemed to lean into the tense confrontation. Some exchanged confused glances, while others hung on every word, their own histories echoing within Jacob's struggle. Just as Jacob opened his mouth to respond, thunder boomed outside, drowning out his thoughts. Lightning splashed across the room again, illuminating Emily's face, revealing fear and determination mixed in equal measure. He gazed into her eyes, searching for answers he wasn't sure he wanted yet. Perhaps this shared pain, this unresolved chapter, offered more than just deeper wounds. It could lead to a shared strength. As the crowd shifted restlessly, Jacob felt a swell of courage rising once more. "Okay," he responded, heart pounding, "tell me. What is it that I need to know?" The suspense hung thick, palpable in the air, and just then, a voice from the back of the crowd called out, "Will this change everything?" With all eyes on them, Jacob and Emily stood on the brink of revelation, each breath mingling with the charged atmosphere, unsure of what was to come next. Jacob took a deep breath, the weight of Emily's gaze anchoring him to the moment. The murmurs of the crowd faded into a dull whisper as he read the urgency etched on her face. This was not just a conversation, it felt monumental, as if the entire room held its breath as they teetered on the edge of something profound. "Okay," Jacob repeated, his voice barely loud enough to cut through the thick silence. "Tell me what you found." His heart thudded in his chest, a drumming echo of uncertainty and dread. Emily stepped closer, her fingers still clutching his arm, an anchor in the storm of emotions swirling around them. "I didn't mean to dig up old dirt," she began, each word heavier than the last. "But the more I learned, the more I realized you were never fully given the chance to heal." She paused, searching his eyes for comprehension. "What do you mean?" he asked, the unease growing. "I found a journal, Maggie's journal. She wrote about leaving, about her pain, and mentioned things you never knew," Emily said, the tremor in her voice betraying the gravity of her revelation. "Things that might explain why she made those choices." Jacob's stomach dropped. Maggie's departure had been shrouded in mystery, and the whispers of her struggles were something he had locked away, convinced the past would stay buried. But here was Emily, pulling at those wounds he thought were healing, threatening to uncover emotions long concealed. "Why would she write to you about them?" Jacob's voice wavered. It felt as if the ground beneath him cracked, a reminder of the fragile walls he had built around his heart. "She was reaching out for help, Jacob. For connection. You both had an understanding, even if she couldn't convey it when she left," Emily explained, holding his gaze tightly. I think she wanted you to know she wasn't okay. And maybe, just maybe, she believed that sharing her struggles could lead to forgiveness, for both of you." The words resonated deep. Jacob could see the flickering hope in the crowd, but he felt sickened by the thought of digging into those memories. "And you think this will help me?" he asked, desperate for reassurance. "I think it's a step toward understanding, toward healing. Sometimes the past needs to be faced, to be understood, for us to truly move forward," she replied, her own voice breaking, revealing how much this mattered to her too. The crowd stirred, the air thickening with curiosity and concern. Whispers slithered through the audience, silent questions hanging on faces both familiar and distant. "What if it hurts too much?" Jacob implored, grappling with fear. "What if knowing the truth just deepens the scars?" Emily's grip tightened. "Or what if it sets you free? What if you finally find the closure you didn't know you needed?" She searched his face intently, revealing her battle, her fight to bring resolution to both their wounds. Jacob's mind whirled, overwhelmed by the weight of revelation and the prospect of change. The energy in the room shifted, vibrating with an urgency that was hard to ignore. Thunder rumbled again outside, a loud reminder that life continued outside these walls, chaotic yet beautiful. He thought of the times he had tried to move forward, the nights spent wrestling with memories that had shaped him. He thought of Emily, standing beside him, resilient and brave. "Let us read it," he finally said, resolve building within him. "Let us face it together." The crowd erupted into a hushed chorus of murmurs, excitement pulsing through them. Emily's eyes lit up, hope shining through her uncertainty. In that moment, Jacob felt like he might reach a turning point, not just for himself, but for them both. But as he and Emily prepared to dive into the tumult of the past, another crack of thunder rolled through the air, louder and closer. What if it brings up more than we can handle? Someone called out from a distance, the question echoing his own uneasiness. Rallying his courage, Jacob met Emily's eyes once more. He had reached a nexus, a moment that could change everything. They stood together, at the edge of a dark and tangled forest of memories, and the way ahead was uncertain. "Let us find out," he answered, heart racing, feeling the buoyancy of hope mixed with fear. He took a step towards the door, ready to confront the ghosts waiting within the pages of the past. Outside, the storm raged on, but inside, a new journey was about to begin. What awaited them in that journal could rewrite everything. Would they emerge stronger, or would the weight of truth drag them under? Jacob opened the door, and a gust of wind blew in, carrying the scent of rain-soaked earth. The storm outside felt like a fury mirroring the turmoil inside him. He glanced back at Emily, the spark of determination flickered in her eyes. They needed to unveil Maggie's truth, no matter how painful it might be. As they stepped into the quiet hallway, the world around them faded. Each footfall echoed against the walls, a persistent reminder of the weight they were about to bear. Jacob felt his pulse quicken. What would he find in the words that had been hidden away? "Are you sure you want to do this now?" Emily asked softly, her concern cutting through the silence. He could see the shadows of doubt crossing her face, reflecting her own battle with his choice. "Yeah," he replied, a little more firmly than he felt. "I need to know." He pushed open another door, leading to a small room filled with shelves of old books, reminiscent of a dusty library. The air was thick with history, each item saturated with stories waiting to be told. Jacob found the journal resting on a wooden desk, the leather cover worn and cracked, much like his heart felt at that moment. "Here it is," he whispered, the weight of the object as heavy as the decision he was making. Emily moved closer as he opened the journal carefully, the pages yellowed with time. The smell of ink and paper wafted up, conjuring a sense of nostalgia mixed with dread. The first entry read like a whisper from the past, and he felt it resonate deep within him. "June 12 today, I felt completely alone. I keep retracing the steps that led me away." With each word, the distant voice of Maggie came to life. Jacob's heart twisted painfully as he read about her struggles, her fears, and the raw emotion seeping through the ink-stained pages. It was a side of her he never knew, a side that explained so much of her choices. Emily's fingers brushed against the next page, her own breath hitching as she too absorbed the honesty within Maggie's thoughts. "She was carrying a burden, just like you," Emily exclaimed softly, looking at Jacob. "She tried to find a way to deal with it." Tears stung Jacob's eyes as he read more. The happiness he thought he remembered was intertwined with despair. "She was reaching out to me, begging for help I never provided," he murmured, his voice thick with regret. Each revelation felt like a puzzle piece finally clicking into place, yet the picture was one he hadn't expected to see. Then he reached a passage that froze him. "I felt suffocated by my choices. I left, thinking it was the best for him, thinking I was protecting him, but was I only running away?" "Jacob," this Emily halted, her expression raw. "This is painful, but perhaps it shows how deeply she cared. Her leaving might have been her own struggle to find peace." Jacob turned the page, heart racing now, desperate to unravel the entire story. But then he stopped. An entry dated just before her departure caught his eye. "If only he knew how much I loved him, perhaps I could have faced my demons with him by my side." He could barely breathe. Each word drew him closer to the haunting reality of those final days. "What if we never really understood each other?" he whispered, his voice trembling. "Every relationship has layers," Emily said gently, leaning closer. "This is a chance, Jacob, for understanding." But as he turned another page, uncertainty gripped him. What if this only deepened their scars rather than healing them? "Are you okay?" Emily asked, sensing the turmoil brewing within him, a storm that felt just as fierce as the one outside. With the journal in front of him, a deep yearning for connection battled with fear in his chest. Can love survive when unspoken truths linger? He pondered aloud, knowing this journey was only the beginning. Just then, another loud crack of thunder shook the room, the force resonating with the tumult in his heart. What happens when the truth doesn't match the love? He questioned, glancing at Emily, whose eyes reflected the storm swirling between them. They stood at a crossroads, their past colliding with the present. Did they have the strength to push through the storm of emotions ahead? The words danced in Jacob's mind, echoing the uncertainty of the moment. The journal lay open between them, pages filled with Maggie's raw confessions that seemed to expose deep scars alongside her love. He felt Emily's warmth beside him, her presence grounding him, yet the storm inside him was far from settled. What if we find things we're not ready for? Jacob said, almost to himself, staring at the words on the page. It felt like peering into a mirror reflecting a past he had avoided looking at for too long. Emily squeezed his shoulder gently. We don't have to go any further if you're not ready. We can take our time. No, I want to understand, Jacob breathed, determination creeping back in. He needed to know the truth about Maggie for himself and for Emily. But I didn't think it would hurt this much. Pain can lead to healing, Jacob, she replied, her voice soft yet unwavering. You're brave for confronting it. He nodded, his resolve momentarily shaken but not broken. Together, they delved deeper, the light from the storm outside casting shadows that danced on the walls. Each entry painted a picture of Maggie's struggles, the love she felt toward him wrapped in layers of doubt. The journal was not just a collection of memories, but the confessions of a woman torn between her heart and her fears. Jacob read another entry, his voice thick with emotion. If I could go back, I'd choose differently. I'd have the courage to face my demons. I wish he could see the real me. Tears spilled down Emily's cheeks, mirroring a pain palpable in the air. She felt so alone, Emily said quietly, tracing the words with her finger. Like she had no one to turn to. Jacob felt a weight settle on his chest, realization crashing over him. It's like I failed her before I even knew I was supposed to be there. His throat tightened, and he stood up abruptly, pacing the small room as stormlights flickered through the window. You didn't know, Emily insisted, her voice a steady anchor. And she didn't want you to carry that burden. But you can carry it differently now. You're not alone anymore. What would the truth mean for them? Did it mean unraveling further or growing closer? With each turn of the page, the dichotomy of love and pain filled the room, swirling in the air like the storm outside. Jacob stopped suddenly, staring at the last few pages, filled with scribbles and ink blots. The entries became frantic, desperate as if she were grasping for clarity. I need to tell him I want him to know the truth of my heart once again, Jacob felt as if the storm was gathering within him. He was caught between grief and love, the past haunting him like a shadow. Emily, he whispered, his heart racing, what if Maggie was right? What if she loved me but thought leaving was the only way to save me? Emily stepped closer, their eyes locking. Then we honor her by being honest with ourselves and each other. He took a deep breath, trying to process the whirlwind of emotions. The flicker of the candlelight seemed to mirror the flickers of understanding and uncertainty within him. But what if facing the truth means facing some hard choices? Emily's expression softened, yet it hardened with determination. Isn't that what love is? Facing the hard things together. The thunder rumbled outside, echoing his heart's own tempest. Jacob felt an unexpected surge of hope mingled with fear. Perhaps this journey would reshape everything. He turned back to the journal, his heart racing as he pondered whether they were ready to face the final entries, those moments that would define what they had together. Are you ready to dive deeper? He asked, feeling both terrified and exhilarated. Emily took a deep breath and nodded, her eyes reflecting both worry and courage. Together. As he turned the page, they both held their breath, realizing that the next revelation could break everything wide open. What awaited them in those final words? Would it heal their wounds or expose new ones? And, most importantly, would they emerge stronger on the other side? As Jacob turned the page, a heavy silence enveloped the room. The storm outside intensified, thrashing against the windows, as if echoing the tumultuous emotions brewing within him. The frantic scrawl that filled the next entry was like a wild beast, breaking loose from the confines of Maggie's mind. "I wish I could tell him everything," Jacob read, his voice barely above a whisper. "The dreams I have for us, the love I feel that makes my heart race, and the fears that keep me shackled in doubt." The weight of Maggie's unfiltered thoughts pressed down on him. He could almost feel her breath, her heart beating through the ink on the page. It was as if she was reaching through time and space, trying to connect with him. If only he knew the pain beneath my smiles. If only he truly saw me. Emily's eyes glistened as she listened, each word striking a chord in her heart. She wanted to be seen, she murmured, leaning closer. And she couldn't find the strength to show it. "What were you so afraid of, Maggie?" Jacob asked aloud, even though he knew she couldn't hear him. He could feel Emily's presence beside him, her hand brushing against his. It was comforting, yet made him acutely aware of the chasm that still existed between him and the woman whose heart once intertwined with his. He pressed on, reading the next lines. "I've kept my love locked away, fearing that the truth would shatter our world. He deserves better." The word struck him like lightning. What had Maggie been carrying inside her, forcing herself into silence? "Jacob," Emily interrupted softly. "She didn't think her love was enough." "Yes, but it was." His frustration was palpable, each word spilling out as the storm continued to rage outside. What if she never knew that? What if she left because she thought it was for the best? With every entry, Jacob could feel the curtain being drawn back on Maggie's fears. The sheer vulnerability in each word made his heart ache. "I don't want to be the reason he is unhappy, even if it kills me." Jacob paused, his throat tightening. "This is unbearable," he admitted, running a hand through his hair. How could she have thought that sacrificing her happiness was right? Emily closed the journal and placed it down gently. "Sometimes the hardest truths are the ones we can't take in ourselves, Jacob. It's a burden to be brave. She thought she was protecting you. But what about us now?" He cried, the thunder cracking again in the distance. "How do we move forward knowing she never felt she could share her truth?" Emily's gaze held his, fierce yet tender. "We learn from it. We build our truth on hers. We open up to each other." Jacob swallowed hard, uncertainty swirling inside him. Could he share his own fears, his own scars, the shadows that hung over him? Could Emily carry that weight with him? "I don't want to carry this pain. I want to learn to love better, to be better." Emily stepped closer, her voice warm. "Then we face it together. We refuse to let fear dictate our choices like she did." His heart began to race again, hope seeping in, battling his lingering doubts. "You're right. If facing the truth will set us free, then let us start now." Suddenly, the candle flickered violently, casting long shadows. The next moment, the room was plunged into darkness. They exchanged glances, the storm outside roared while the world around them fell silent. "Jacob, what do we do?" Emily's voice quivered slightly, but her eyes sparkled with resolve. His heart raced. They had crossed a threshold. The next step was imminent, but it could lead them into uncharted waters or back where they started. "We continue reading. We can't stop now." With a newfound sense of urgency, Jacob felt for the journal amidst the darkness. What lies ahead may just hold the key to our understanding. As he flipped to the next page, the heavy weight of anticipation loomed like the storm above. Would the shadows unveil clarity, or would they reveal new demons? What secrets lay hidden in Maggie's final words, waiting to confront them? As Jacob felt his way through the darkness, the pages of the journal crinkled like the tension bubbling just beneath the surface. He could feel Emily's breath hitch beside him, an echo of his own rising anticipation. The storm continued to howl outside, drowning the silence that formed a cocoon around them. With trembling fingers, he found the next written lines, the faint scratching of Maggie's pen almost a whisper in his mind. Maybe love is a beautiful curse, something that fills us and drains us at the same time. I fear that if I loosen my grip, it will slip away, a fine mist in the wind. Jacob's heart sank deeper. Was that truly how Maggie had felt? That love was something to be feared. She thought love could escape her, he murmured, glancing at Emily, whose face was shadowed but full of understanding. Maybe she was wrong, Emily softly replied, her voice balancing hope and sorrow. Love is meant to be shared. Maybe it only strengthens us when we let it in. Jacob could hardly breathe as he continued reading, pushing through the anxiety clawing at his throat. Each night, I lie awake, begging the universe for a sign. A flicker of light to guide my choices. I know the weight of my unspoken words will crush me one day. He swallowed hard again. She thought holding back was the answer, that being brave meant to be silent. Jacob, Emily said, her voice steady in the dark. What do you think she would have done if she knew she could have shared her heart with you? I don't know, he admitted, his voice cracking. But I want to believe that it would have been different. I want to think it would have been enough. The journal felt heavier in his hands, the burden of Maggie's thoughts pressing upon him. But what is it that I even feel? What was I too afraid to say? He cursed himself for pulling away from his own truth. Perhaps it was time to confront his fears. He hesitated, then turned the page again. I see the shadows in his eyes. He thinks I don't notice, but I do. I am terrified of being the cause of his unhappiness, yet I want to drown in every moment with him. Each line struck him like a hammer, cracking open the walls he had built around his own heart. God, he breathed, how did she wrestle with so much pain alone? Jacob, Emily whispered. Maybe it's not too late. This can inspire us to be honest with each other. To face our darkness. The candle flickered back to life, casting a warm glow once more. For the first time, Jacob truly saw Emily's face, illuminated by the soft light, and something shifted within him. Do you think we can just open up? He asked, the vulnerability twisting his stomach. Emily nodded slowly, her gaze unwavering. Together, we can find the courage she never had. What is stopping us? Jacob's heart began to quicken, each beat urging him to strip away the illusions he had built around his emotions. If love could come from a place of honesty, then maybe they had a chance. I want that, Emily. I don't want to hide anymore. Just then, a loud crash outside startled them, a tree branch hitting the window with a deafening thud. They flinched instinctively, the moment shattering the fragile air between them. What was that? Jacob asked, adrenaline coursing through him. It was just the storm, Emily replied, but her voice trembled slightly. Or a sign, Jacob countered softly, looking back to the pages before him. As he did, his eyes fell upon a final, unfinished line from Maggie. I need him to know. I hope one day he sees Jacob. Emily urged, her voice filled with a mix of caution and urgency. What will you do with these words? He clenched the journal tight, heart racing and breath shallow. It was time to confront both his own fears and the unspoken feelings hanging in the air. I think I'm ready to tell you everything. The revelation hung between them like the promise of dawn after a night of storms. Would they find solace in the truth, or would the admission leave scars? Jacob took a deep breath, the weight of Maggie's words still heavy in the air. The storm outside raged on, but inside this tiny room, it felt like a different kind of tempest was brewing. Could love thrive amidst the chaos of confusion? He turned to Emily, whose eyes shimmered with a mix of anticipation and concern. I've been holding back, he admitted, voice trembling. When I lost Maggie, I thought I had to be strong, to bury myself in farm work and solitude. I thought that forgetting would help. Emily's gaze softened, the connection between them flickering to life. But you didn't forget, did you? You've carried her weight and your own for so long. There it was, the truth, both painful and liberating. Jacob nodded, emotions spiraling within him. I've never let anyone close again. I stayed trapped in that pain, afraid to love because of how it felt to lose. I built these walls and pushed everyone away, including you, he confessed, his heart racing. Suddenly, the world fell quiet. The storm outside paused as if time itself held its breath. Jacob took a step toward Emily, feeling gravity shift between them. But I see you now, and it scares me. I'm afraid of opening up. Afraid I might lose again. Jacob, Emily whispered, her sincerity wrapping around him like a warm blanket. Risk is part of love. You can't protect yourself by building barriers. It'll only keep you isolated. Silent tears slipped down her cheeks, and Jacob felt a pang in his chest. I see how brave you are, Emily. You've faced your own struggles, and yet, here you are. She smiled through her tears, that radiant light he had yearned for slowly illuminating the darkness. But without openness, we stay trapped in the past. We owe it to ourselves to try, Jacob. As he searched her eyes, a surge of determination washed over him. You're right. This is our chance to break free, to step beyond the pain. With a deep breath, Jacob reached for her hand, feeling the spark of connection flow through them. I want to share my heart with you. I want you to know everything, even the messy parts. Once again, they turned their focus to the journal, the pages still alive with Maggie's essence, a ghost that had lingered for so long. Jacob's fingers trembled as he flipped to the last unfinished line that they had read together. I need him to know. I hope one day he sees. He paused, swallowing the emotions bubbling to the surface. I think I've finally understood what she was trying to say. That love isn't about perfection. It's about being real, being vulnerable, and allowing someone in. Exactly, Emily agreed, hope flickering like the candlelight between them. It's about being brave enough to embrace the chaos. In that moment, the storm outside seemed to reflect the clarity rising within Jacob's heart. Maggie may not have wanted to burden me, but she also didn't give our love the chance to thrive. I don't want to make the same mistake with you. With renewed courage, he leaned closer to Emily. I'm here, ready to embrace you and the messy reality we both live in. Her radiant smile lit up the room, shattering any lingering doubt. I'm so grateful for you, Jacob. Together, we can honor the love you had for Maggie by allowing our hearts to connect in our own way. Outside, the rain began to subside, echoes of thunder replaced by gentle drops falling like whispers of hope. They were on the precipice of something great, two souls bound by shared pain, ready to move forward without the shadows of the past hanging over them. Jacob felt lighter, as though decades of unexpressed sorrow had begun to lift. Together, he whispered, squeezing her hand gently. Let us write our own story, free from fear and full of love. With that promise hanging in the air, they stepped away from the shadows of what once was, into the warmth of a future built on honesty and understanding. Each challenge ahead would be met with courage, and the bond they formed would only grow stronger. The clouds parted just enough for a sliver of moonlight to slip through, illuminating their path as they embarked on this new journey. Jacob smiled at Emily, feeling like they were both on the cusp of something beautiful, navigating through the storms of life together, ready to embrace whatever came next. And as they stepped into the cool night air, hand in hand, it was clear that love could indeed shine through, no matter how messy or complicated life might be. Now is the time for you to act. Subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories that will inspire and transform. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and keep the love alive. And comment your reactions and feelings about this powerful ending. It matters to me. Don't wait not even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. True fans know how important it is to support the channel through these actions. Let's keep sharing stories that matter.